We're live.
All right, Jason.
All right, great. So thank you all and welcome, and thank you for taking part in our energy seminar. This is our second part 2, hosted by the Sustainability Committee. We had a well-attended part 1 a few weeks ago, and we're glad you're joining us tonight. So I'm Jason Lang, the Parks and Rec Director, and I'm the staff liaison to the Sustainability Committee. Tonight, moderating will be Kipp, who's the Vice Chair of the Sustainability Committee. He's a Senior Project Manager for Hillcrest Associates, a local architecture and engineering firm with a wide spectrum of accounts in mixed-use residential and commercial accounts. He is involved in many community organizations, the American Institute of Architects, International Code Council, National Fire Protection Association, and many more. On our actual panel, we have 3 distinguished guests this evening. We have Gregory Allen with us from SunPay Energy. He works, which is a national solar sales and installation company, which is one of the few here in the United States that handles everything, all your solar needs in-house, start to finish for every project. We have Paul Spiegel, who's with Practical Energy. He's their president. He has over 25 years of experience in building design, construction, evaluations, and assessments. And he currently educates and guides individuals and companies and how they can use energy more effectively and conservatively. And last but not least, Bryan Hutchinson, who's sitting on the panel, is also a Sustainability Committee member. He is an avid promoter and practitioner of energy efficiency and the use of renewable resources. He has provided accounting services to the Energy Co-op Association of Pennsylvania since November of 2016, which is a registered energy generating supplier with the PUC and is one of the longest providing suppliers of 100% renewable energy in the region. And most importantly about Bryan, he has lived in the township for 25 years. So he can speak to this from a number of different perspectives. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Kipp and we can introduce and get going. Go ahead, take it away, Kipp.
Thank you very much, Jason. I'd like to also say this again. This is our part 2 seminar on energy. The first part was regarding our energy audit, and as well as local, state, and codes. If you missed that seminar, there is it's actually recorded on the East Goshen Township's YouTube channel, and please look at that before proceeding on to this one. So with not further ado, let's get started. I'm gonna probably put it out to Greg. I don't know where you went, Greg, but your video, hopefully your audio is still there. This is gonna be regarding solar energy, which we brought you on board to kind of discuss that. We know that the US probably has the most renewable and abundant solar energy available. There's different types of solar energy. We've got photovoltaic, solar heating, cooling, concentrated solar power. From my research, I found that there was 71 gigawatts of solar arrays installed in the US, which is enough to power more than 13.5 million homes. That's a lot, but that's still only a small cusp of how much energy we need in the US. And I'd like to talk to you about what are some of the key benefits of solar energy systems for my home or business, as well as how reliable are these today. I mean, I'm hearing so many news stories about, we're going past 20 years now for solar arrays. Is that the trend in the market? Is it, or not? Would you like to elaborate?
Sure, great, thanks, Kipp. Again, my name is Greg Allen. I'm from SunPay Energy, a Pennsylvania-based company that does have a national footprint. So just to piggyback off what Kipp had said, solar energy is a sustainable, renewable, and is very plentiful. At the cost of using solar to produce electricity goes down every year. Many Americans are increasingly switching to solar. Currently, as of 2020, there are over 2 million solar installations across the country. And my research has indicated that that's expected to double by 2023. There are many benefits to solar. Number one is cost savings. The financial returns and lower monthly utility bills are major incentives for going solar. The exact savings that you will see with solar depends on a couple of factors. Number one, your electricity consumption, your solar energy system size, your home or your business, how much direct hours of daily sunlight it receives, roof space available, and of course, your local electricity rates. A solar electric system provides an opportunity for anyone who is looking to reduce their monthly utility bills and make a long-term, low-risk investment. You know, some of the incentives that a homeowner or a business is entitled to. Number one is a federal tax incentive. For this year, 2020, it's 26%. That is a dollar for dollar reduction in your total income tax liability. Also, net metering. If your system produces more than what your home or business uses, you will receive a credit on your next electricity bill that will roll over each month. Also, in the state of Pennsylvania, we're lucky enough to have what we call solar renewable energy credits, or commonly called SRECs. So for each megawatt hour of electricity that your system produces, you will earn one solar renewable energy credit. And you can sell those solar renewable energy credits for additional money to put in your pocket. Another benefit, added benefit, is it increases your home's value. Solar panels are viewed as upgrades, just like renovating a kitchen or finishing a basement. So purchasing a solar system will likely increase your home's value. As of 2020, a national average study showed that homeowners pay a premium for a solar home. You know, one study that Berkeley National Laboratory showed that on average, a home or a business with solar added a value of about $18,000. Although market factors like electricity rates and system size may impact the size of the premium as well. You know, solar homes can sell for, solar homes can sell a lot faster when they are on the market than homes without a renewable energy source. You know, solar works everywhere. The solar resource in the United States is enormous. You know, in fact, just an hour of noontime summer sun is the equal to the annual US electricity demand, just 1 hour. Most states in the United States have good to excellent solar resource. Even places with relatively low solar resources, such as the Pacific Northwest and Alaska, can experience cost savings. So solar is beneficial throughout our country everywhere. You know, and they have similar solar resources to countries that have a widely developed solar PV, such as like Germany. There's also an environmental benefit. You know, each kilowatt hour of solar that is generated will substantially reduce greenhouse gas emissions like CO2, as well as other dangerous pollutants such as sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter. Solar also reduces water consumption and withdrawal. So I just want to talk a minute about the process of obtaining solar, whether it be in your home or your business. So the first step is that we want to ensure that your home will actually qualify for solar. When I say that, I mean, you know, the roof space that's available, make sure it's free of, you know, obstruction, tree shading, things of that nature.
Is there a way to evaluate that? Is that something that you would, as your particular company would do, or is there some resources out there that a homeowner or a business could look at before contacting a solar company?
Well, any homeowner can do a kind of a self-site survey. They can walk out in their front lawn at 9 o'clock in the morning, noon, and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and take a look at, you know, what part of their roof is clear to obstruction, or this part of the roof has shading. But we have software available to us that we're able to tell where the best heat signature is going to be on an individual's home. Satellite imagery that is most up to date to be able to see any type of obstruction or you know, vents that are in the roof, etc. So once we do that, we would then obtain a recent copy of a utility bill so we can see exactly how much electricity your home is using, because no two homes are alike. So we will then engineer a design based on your individual needs and create a cost and savings proposal for that homeowner or business owner. If financing is needed, we will then match you with a lending firm that specifically handles solar loans. So the financial institutions that we have partnerships with, that we deal with on a daily basis, they specifically do solar loans, nothing else. This is their sole job, their sole purpose. This is all they do. So they know the ins and outs to getting the job done for the homeowner. Then what we'll do is we'll schedule and send an engineer, a live person to your home, and do an actual site survey, inspecting the roof, inspecting your current electricity panels. You know, if anything needs an upgrade, if you have an old electrical system, we have our own electricians that will do the upgrade for you. Everything, we can handle everything to make sure that you're ready to put solar on your home. We also file the appropriate permits with the local townships. We take care of that as well. Then we will schedule an installation date for you. And once the system is installed, there's a final inspection that takes place, and your system is ready to be turned on once we get the approval from the local utility. Start to finish, from the time the customer wants to put solar on their home or business to the time of installation, is anywhere between 28 to 45 days, depending on paperwork in the local townships, et cetera, but the average anywhere between 28 to 45 days, a homeowner or a business owner is ready to go solar.
And what are you seeing for typical life expectancy of solar now these days with PV systems?
Well, technology, as you know, Kipp, is changing very rapidly. Some technology is moving a little bit faster than it should. But you know, we use all American-made panels, nothing outside of the United States. And, you know, with a 25-year manufacturer's warranty, I have not seen any system that is outdated. As a matter of fact, I have a neighbor that had solar put on her house in 1985, and it still works just as good as it did in 1985.
Wow. What's a relative system size that you've been seeing in the area based on, like, what's the typical kilowatt system that you've been seeing for residential and then for commercial?
So down in my experience down in the Pico utility, which is where we're all located, anywhere between 4.5 kilowatt to a 7.5 kilowatt system, somewhere in there, depending on roof space. That's what typically we see in the size of a system. For residential.
And what is there a percentage of that you're seeing based off their current usage? I mean, is that like 60% of their current or 80% of their current usage? Is what you're seing on average? I mean, I know I'm typically around 1,400 kilowatts per month.
I think I understand your question, Kipp.
Sorry.
Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes we're able to get the homeowner or business owner at 100% solar, based off of if they have limited roof space. Most of the time, I would say on average, Kipp, we're getting our customers anywhere between 75 and 85% as a norm. We do have customers that are at 100%, but 75 to 85% has been the average in the southeastern part of Pennsylvania.
And that's so solar works no matter if there's sun or not sun, correct?
Well, obviously solar works better if you have direct sunlight, but if at 5 o'clock in the morning, if you can see outside, your solar panels are receiving solar rays.
All right. Well, thank you, Greg. I'd like to move on to Paul to talk about geothermal.
I have a
Geothermal, what was that?
I have a PowerPoint, and I think someone else was going to run that, but I could always share my screen.
It's up to you. I think Susan has the ability to jump that on, but I think you also have the ability to screen share if you want to bring up that PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, let me try screen sharing here.
Okay.
Okay,
That looks good.
so thanks.
So
a
I'll
lot.
let you do your presentation. I was really going to ask, what type of solar or geothermals do we have out there? And I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, I'll get to that eventually, I guess. There's a couple of things I'm going to go through really quick,
Not a problem.
just
Thank
to
you.
throw them out there. Maybe some of it's for the recording for the people that aren't here during this. Just introducing me and my company, founded it 14 years ago. We provide a wide range of services, mostly for commercial and municipal clients. We have a pretty good group of schools and municipalities that we've worked with, many in Chester County, but all around the Philadelphia area. We're the primary energy consultant for the city of Philadelphia. Done a lot of work, like I said, in Chester County, worked with maybe 70 municipalities, but just wanted to put this up here just for showing that we are actually paid to do this. And we seem to be doing a pretty good job of it because we get some repeat work through that. So just following up something Greg talked about, energy efficiency, renewable energy. They're going to help you reduce your energy costs, your environmental impacts. I don't need to, go over those things again, but I did want to mention something that's kind of been on my mind lately. And I've read a lot about in this era of COVID-19, that even the people who are recovering from it often have some element of issues with their lungs and maybe compromise their respiratory system in some ways. And they're going to be more sensitive to the air pollution that we put out there when we're burning fossil fuels. And so it's really important to continue to eliminate those and reduce the number of particulates and sulfur dioxide, amount of sulfur dioxide and other things in the atmosphere. Obviously, we're all aware of the issues with climate change. I like to run through this in maybe 20 seconds when I do a presentation. This is just a crude oil price over the last 60, 70 years. Can kind of go all over the place, hard to predict. Even the best experts seem to be wrong at times on where the price is going. This is natural gas. It's close to historic lows now, but it is hard to predict what's going to happen when pipelines are in place. But these are the graphs that I really like, are the wind power showing a steady decline in prices since 1980, a huge increase in the capacity that we've built. Same thing with solar. If you look back to 1977, we were at $76 per watt. I think when I founded the company, we were running at maybe $6 or $7 per watt installed. And one of the issues that people run into now is they say there aren't enough grants available for solar. But 15 years ago, we were giving 25 and 50% grants for solar, but the price of the actual panels is less than a quarter of what it was back then. And so you're actually in better shape now than you were when we had grants available years ago. Everything we talk about with energy, we look at it as the three-legged stool. You start with conservation because that's cheap. It pays for itself very quickly. Then you get it as efficient as you can with your energy use. And then as you've shrunk your footprint down to the smallest size you can get to, reduce your energy consumption as much as possible. Then you invest in the renewable energy system, and that system can be smaller then. That way you're not using solar energy to kind of power your energy waste within your facility, whether it's your house or a business or a school. So talking about geothermal today, often the size of the system is not just based on the size of the house, but it can be based on how much you're losing heat or gaining heat in the summer, losing heat in the winter. And so if you can take care of your envelope and seal up things in the attic and at your sill plate in your basement, things like that, you can reduce the size of the geothermal system that you'd be putting in place.
We did talk about in our part 1. So if everyone go back to part 1, you can see, reach out to Pico to do an energy audit to help you with that.
They do a fairly basic audit, but it gives you a lot of good ideas that are fairly universal. Looking here, you want to, if you're trying to reduce your energy use, you want to know where that energy is going. And when we're talking about geothermal, we're primarily in space heating and space cooling, although there are opportunities that we've had with some of our commercial clients to do hot water heating as well, especially during cooling season. You can dump some of the heat into the geothermal system, but you can also use it for some hot water heating. So why geothermal? It doesn't require you to use any fossil fuels. You're not burning anything. There's no combustion in your house. So you're not generating carbon monoxide. You're not polluting the air. You're not aggravating the climate change issues that we have. You can save anywhere from, I think, 30 to 60%. I think in some cases you could maybe get 70% for both costs, but also for the amount of energy that you use. Natural gas is a little bit cheaper than electricity for heating, but if you can save enough with geothermal, you're still saving even over what you would use with natural gas and what you would spend. Geothermal is still eligible for tax credits. 2020, it's at 26%, 2021 at 22%. And I like to say that when it comes with a programmable thermostat, you have a conservation opportunity as well. And I look at geothermal as not just renewable energy, but actually as having elements in all 3 legs of that energy savings stool. So, so there is an element of energy efficiency because it is a highly efficient heat pump that you typically use. The renewable energy comes from being able to take heat out of the ground and use it to heat your house, or take heat from your house and put it into the ground. And that constantly renews as you get groundwater flowing through, and it also tends to renew when you get to the next season. So if you're heating your house with geothermal, you're taking heat out of the ground, and then the following summer, you're putting the heat back into the ground. And so it's kind of renewing that energy use. And the programmable thermostat, it can save you 10% on your heating and cooling bills, maybe even 15%. The issue is that you have to actually program it. I had someone tell me, I bought that programmable thermostat you told me about, and it seems like our energy use is the same. I said, well, how did you program it? And they said, program it. And I thought, just came already programmed, and I didn't have to do anything. It's, no, you have to set back the temperatures when you're not at home. And so during the week, during the day, you can allow your, during air conditioning season, have the air conditioning off and have it come on before you get home again. Same thing in heating season. So, so you can take advantage of conservation efficiency.
Yeah, I truly like using a programmable thermostat, especially the smarter ones now that actually start predicting when you're going to be there, and actually can learn
right
your habits. You know, what they know that you return at 5, so it's going to start preheating at like 4:30, so that when you come home, it's comfortable. It's not, you know, you're not having to set all those those kind of waypoints,
Right.
to get to a comfortable level where when you're actually in your home.
Yeah, and they're actually getting better at looking at the current temperature in your house, the humidity, the temperature outside, and knowing how soon in advance of you coming home they need to go on to have it be at the set point temperature.
Correct.
So, you know, all really good. So you don't have to set it to come on at 3 o'clock so that it's cool in your house by 5 when you get home. If you set it for 5 o'clock, it knows what to do to get it cool by 5 o'clock. And actually, I had mine waiting till 5 o'clock, even though my wife and kids were getting home at 4. But they heard that it was running and they could feel some cool air. And so they didn't realize I was saving an extra hour every day for them. And then electrification is, it's really a key strategy in going to 100% renewables. If you're investing in natural gas infrastructure, whether it's combined heat and power or natural gas for heating, all of those things are kind of linking you to a fossil fuel or to natural gas so that you can't do 100% renewable energy. And a lot of the things that you invest in for heating and cooling, they can have a 15 to 20-year service life. So you have to be really cautious about what you decide to invest in, especially if you are looking at the long-term environmental performance. For me, my goal was always, and when I converted from oil to all electric, I looked at gradually adding solar. And so not only can I generate all of the energy we use in our house, but my future plan is to buy an electric vehicle and to be able to charge it off the solar array. And so then I'm reducing my footprint even more for, you know, I'm using solar to generate my transportation energy. And that's all I had is the PowerPoint part of this, but I'm available for questions.
Well, just a quick question. What is a typical time frame for a geothermal install? Would you have any idea of what it typically takes? I mean, Greg was saying in 28 to 45 days for a solar PV. Would you think the same time frame? I mean,
I'm going to guess that it's going to be a little longer than that, just because a lot of the installers install both geothermal and conventional heating and cooling systems. And there is somewhat of a shortage of qualified workers to do that work right now, at least in this region, especially Chester County. So many of them do have a backlog of work, but you can get the process started and get some, you know, if you bring a contractor out, they can give you an assessment of what it's going to take and what the costs are going to be and what their timeline is. I always recommend going to more than one provider for heating and air conditioning types of equipment, because the ranges in prices we've seen for a very similar scope has been incredible, where one will be double another contractor's price. And so you really want to shop around and make sure you get both a good price, but also someone who's got some good references that you can check and you can make sure they're committing to a specific time frame for you. But it could be 60 to 90 days that you could have that done. You just have to be aware it's going to tear up your yard a little bit, and you're going to need some time to get that just back to its original condition.
so another question. I mean, geothermal is different types of systems. I've seen ones that are ground wells, where you've got a cylinder pipe, then you have more or less an array where it's, you know, laid out in large fields. What's the typical system that you've seen in the area, or what's most contractors wanting to do? I mean, is it the ground wells that they want to do a closed loop? I mean, I saw that one of your slides had an open loop, which I don't think is too practical, in the sense that you're potentially putting water back into the aquifer.
Sure.
I think most systems are out there a closed loop, but do you have a sense on what?
Yeah, most systems are closed loop where they keep the same fluid within the pipes, and all of the energy transfer is through the wall of the pipes. An engineer we work with did an open loop system design for a facility near the Delaware River where the groundwater is really high. And they felt like the open loop was an economical and highly efficient way to go. And they ended up getting no bidders on the project because all of the contractors do closed loop systems. And most in this area are vertical. Most of the ones that we've seen go in have vertical wells and not the horizontal pipe field that it would tend to tear up the ground a little bit more and maybe not be as efficient because it's closer to the surface. And so it doesn't take advantage of the full of the temperature of the materials 100 feet down or 60, 80 feet down, 200 feet down.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul. I'd like to move on to our third expert, which is Bryan. And we'd like to talk about grants, incentives, and tax credits. And I know you have a PowerPoint presentation that you'd like to present to us. Would you like to put together or show us how do we apply the programs to allow for solar and geothermal?
Sure.
And specifically energy projects to receive grants from the Department of Energy and other state and local organizations?
I'd be glad to, Kipp. First, I want to thank Paul and Greg, because many of the things that I was going to cover, they've already covered. So they've made my PowerPoint presentation that much quicker. So on certain slides, I'll just go through that very quickly. I am going to see if I can get my screen shared with you. And let's see if I can get going here. So my question for you is, do you see my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, I do.
All right. Let me just get to my screen here. All right. So again, I'm Bryan Hutchinson. I'm on the East Goshen Sustainability Committee. I'm a industry accountant, and I will go through a couple more details that Greg and Paul covered. But first, just a little disclaimer. It's important for you to assess your projects from a professional perspective. We recommend that you consult with those professionals. And I just want to clarify, I'm not a CPA, even though I've worked in accounting for over 35 years. So it's important to do your due diligence on all of the things that you're going to be looking at. Again, as Kipp suggested, if you haven't already, go to the East Goshen Sustainability, East Goshen Township website and the Sustainability Advisory Committee tab. Down here is the video that you can play. Nice thing about a video is that you can just kind of see the agenda and scroll through and go to exactly what you want to hear instead of hearing dull, boring accountants talk to you about debits and credits. Again, you can go to the PICO Energy Assessment or Energy Audit, their website. There's great things there. There are a lot of rebates that are available. I'm currently looking to replace my 10-year-old water heater, electric water heater with a heat pump, electric heat pump water heater. And PICO is offering $450 or $350 for do that. So check that out before you start your renewable energy project. So I wanted to just go into a little detail for those people who have already had an energy audit and have done some remedial work, because there are tax credits for the products that you might need to purchase. Let's say you have an energy audit from PICO or any number of their approved vendors, and they come in and they basically say, well, we can do some air sealing, some caulking, You can do some weather stripping. And in a lot of cases, with those energy audits, I've had two. I've had one from PECO, actually two from PECO and two from outside energy auditors. And in a lot of cases, many of the things that they're recommending, you can actually do yourself. So go to Home Depot or Lowe's or a home improvement store and buy that product, put it in yourself. Now, the non-business energy property tax credits that are available until the end of this year, you can get 10% off of the cost of the product, not the labor, for up to a $500 lifetime limit. Examples there of what you can get that credit for. And again, it's a credit. It's not a deduction. Credits are in accounting. And when you talk to tax accountants, you're always looking for tax credits, not looking for tax deductions. Tax credits is dollar for dollar. So it's a great tax credit to look towards. I've used it on a number of things at my house. If you're looking for that form, it's Form 5695 on the IRS Forms Publications website. If you're looking for other sources of residential renewable energy tax credits, a good website to go to is DSIRE. They've been established since 1995. It's a great place to find out not only what's available in this area, but what might be available in other states. And I know we're focusing on East Goshen, but there are a lot of people that have vacation homes. So there is a possibility that you could be upgrading a vacation home and be eligible for tax credits for those as well. Again, I'll just skip real quickly through this. This is the PV solar federal income tax credit and their expiration. I guess one of the things that wasn't mentioned is that commercial actually is eligible for these investment federal income tax credits as well. They're actually expanded and extended through 2022, whereas residential solar is over at the end of 2021. Again, Paul went over this in his slide. I'll just briefly go through this. I'm going to skip this one to come back. I want to talk a little bit about a more detailed graph on net metering. I'm actually recently signed a contract with a solar PV installer. I'm actually going to be doing a 5K system on my house. And I think this graph sort of shows fairly easily what net metering is all about. Basically, net metering is allowed through the state regulations in Pennsylvania and many other states. It basically allows any solar system generates excess electricity to be credited against what you use, or if you're using it in excess on a monthly basis, it's carried over. So the graph shows that there's a solar system or a wind system. It's connected to your house or yard, inverter, which changes the DC or direct current electricity from solar panel into your grid, which is AC system, which is alternating current. The PECO will come out and put a bi-directional meter on your house. And one of the points I wanted to make, I guess Greg indicated that you can take 28 to 45 days, depending upon how many delays you have. Unfortunately, in the PECO area, I've been told that the application process can actually take up to 25 days. So if they approve it in 3 days, that's fine. But if it takes 25 days, then your system time period is going to be a little bit longer. So the nice thing about net metering is that you get credits against the generation, transmission, and the distribution part of your electricity bill. You won't get a credit against the customer charge, or if you have another meter, and there might be some taxes that you don't get. Net metering, based on what the evaluation and the analysis I've done, is really the key, I think, for a lot of homeowners that sort of puts them over the edge to be able to say, okay, I'm going to get a fair amount of my electricity bill back. And in many cases, it could be up to 100%. I'm just going to go real quick back. I think Paul and Greg touched on the SRECs, basically renewable energy credits. They are renewable energy credits. RECs, SRECs is just basically solar renewable energy credits. And one credit is worth each is 1 megawatt hour. If you have a 5K system like the one I'm looking at, you should be able to generate at least 6 megawatt hours, maybe more, depending upon the market value of those SRECs. Let's say it's 35, it's been as high as 40. I think they're a little lower at this point. If you sold those SRECs, you'd add an extra $350. So all in all, when you do a solar system or geothermal system, geothermal, you get the investment tax credit on the federal level. The solar system, you get that investment tax credit, plus you get the net metering, plus you get SRECs if you decide to sell them on the open market. So solar electricity PV systems are really, as Greg was saying, maybe Paul, technology has reduced the cost of the panels. I'm looking at a 5K system, which is going to be somewhere between maybe a little bit over $3 an installed watt. That's a really good price compared to some of the other systems that you're looking at. Went over that, and just the last two slides, there are some sources, additional sources, if you're looking to have additional information. Energy Sage is a good website to check. They have a lot of good non-product information. I did a lot of my research on my solar PV system net metering through Energy Sage. The Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission also has a vast amount of consumer information on solar PV net metering as well. And two last additional sources, if you're considering a solar voltaic system, a good place to start would be at the public PUC website. And again, Energy Sage is a good website to check up on. They will allow you to put in your name and address if you want a solar installer to contact you, but you don't have to do that. So that's the nice thing about the Energy Sage. From a local, from a county perspective, the only thing that I could find, and maybe Greg and Paul can jump in if they want, is that the really only credits that I could find was available to homeowners and for commercial businesses in the Chester County area is the federal investment tax credit. I don't know whether Paul and Greg have any other information, but I could not find any other grants or credits that could be provided by either the state or the county. And that's my PowerPoint.
Well, thank you, Brian. Paul, did you have something to say with those tax credits?
Yeah, I don't have a lot for residential. I'm not as aware of the residential programs in Pennsylvania, but Chester County could soon be implementing what's called CPACE, which is Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy. And those loans can be spread out over a longer time period than typical loans because the loan payment stays with the property tax bill for the property. And the county did approve them, but there's been some administrative issues allowing it to go forward. But we've already seen Philadelphia approved this program, and we've already seen millions of dollars of projects get submitted for funding, and they go through typical banks that sign on to the program. So that's something that's coming for both energy efficiency and renewable energy in the commercial sector here in Chester County. I think Chester County was the third county in the state to sign on to it after the state legislature passed the rules to allow it to happen.
Well, thank you. So if we're done there, I've got a few questions from some of our participants, and I'm going to put this out to, I guess, everybody here. The first one, which I think is going to be part of our part one, but let's put it out there. Everything that we are discussing is achieved by individuals' initiatives. Is there any township codes in use that establish a renewable energy requirement for new construction? Which I believe Mark Gordon had addressed, and at the current moment, the township does not have any requirements for new construction. The SAC is evaluating that and talking with the planning board, but that is a further discussion, I think, for our panel with the township. I think, Mark, we did talk about what type of excavation is necessary for geothermal. I think we talked about, that if it's a closed loop vertical installation, there's less likely for excessive disturbance on the property, depending on the location of the geothermal well. Somebody wanted to bring up the point that this old house is actually going to have a geothermal installation coming up at 9 o'clock on their online. And then let's see what the other one we have here. There's a discussion here about creating microgrids for the township. Did anyone, or will this be answered? But I thought I'd ask. I believe, Brian, we had a discussion with the SAC on that, on the microgrids, and I think we do not in the township allow for solar array installations, just solar arrays that are not associated with a commercial or business or residence. I don't believe that was going to be reviewed or revised. And I don't know what the rest of the county or in the Chester County about solar array installations on private property. Paul, would you know anything, or Greg?
Well, I know there's been a lot of talk about community solar to allow people to aggregate and use a solar array that maybe isn't on their own property, and they could sell subscriptions to it or something like that. But we've also looked at some properties that the city of Philadelphia owns where they have 4 or 5 properties that are adjacent to each other. I think one of them, they had 2 schools, a rec center, a library, and a homeless facility. And there was some open space in the middle of all of those facilities. And so we're looking at the strategy of putting in a shared geothermal field that they could all pull from, as well as then once the wells are in, to put a solar array in place. And it would be a shared solar array as well, since they're all owned by one entity.
Thank you. Well, that's the remaining of the questions. Does anyone have any final remarks? If not, I'll turn it over to Jason to close this out on our part 2 seminar for energy.
Final thing is just, someone mentioned that this looks like a lot of individual efforts, but that's where it starts, and it's really important. This has been a bottom-up movement with the Sierra Club Ready for 100 and individuals needing to take action in the absence of any real promotion from the federal level. And so I think individual action spurs group action, and it should allow people to get together and be used as examples for other people. Everybody feels more comfortable taking a step out in a specific direction if they see that other similar people or similar municipalities have done the same thing. So it's kind of starting things off individually is a great thing.
The only thing I wanted to add from a financial perspective is that I don't really have any hard data now, but I will in probably over by next September or October on my system. But being an accountant, doing my due diligence in the different systems and the system that I'm gonna get, the return on investment is very good. I mean, if you're particularly a person like myself in the retirement age, looking for a somewhat of a guaranteed sort of return on your investment, unless there's an environmental catastrophe where the skies are totally clouded almost every day, I was looking potentially between 6% and 10% return on my investment on this solar system. So I'd encourage anybody that's looking for a good return on their investment, definitely look into a solar system for their house.
That's what I really love about the finance programs like CPACE that allow you to stretch the payments over 20 years. So if you've got something that's got a 10% return on investment, but your payments are over 20 years, you're actually going to take no money out of pocket and be cash flow positive from day one. You're actually going to be making money. You're going to be saving more than what you're paying on the loan from the first month that the system's in place. So it's really makes things a lot easier when you have that kind of financial arrangement.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, panelists. I'd like to make one final comment that this is a series of seminars that we're going to have up over the next few months. Please look forward for our next seminar, and I'll hand it over to Jason to close this out. Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone. I would just echo the same comments from Kipp. I would like to thank Greg and Paul and Bryan for their expertise. And also speaking to the individuals make great change thing is, if you know anyone that could not attend tonight, or you have friends or neighbors, or you're going to be going to a barbecue over the weekend coming up here, feel free to share our YouTube channel so that they also can learn some of this great information. So thanks everyone for attending tonight.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everybody.